Good evening, everyone, and welcome to what is promising to be a firecracker episode of the Club Racing UK podcast. It's certainly been talked about a lot. It's the show that you guys asked for. It's the show that you guys wanted. So let's get on with it. Of course, we're talking driving standards today. We've been advertising it all week. With me, as usual, is the twins right beside me, Nick Holmes and Stefan Marsh of Club Racing UK. And we have got two of the utmost professional guests from different walks of life in the Club Racing paddock. We have Pete Edwards of the Motorsport School, and we have Mick Palmer of Motor Racing UK magazine. Good evening, gents.
Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Evening, everyone.
Evening.
Good evening.
I hope you've all got your harnesses on for this one, because this one's going to be, I'm looking forward to this one.
I'll tell you what, guys. The comments have been coming in already. I will just say, boys and girls, if you are watching via the Club Racing UK paddock page tonight and you post a comment in, make sure you just put a little asterisk with your name on the end, okay? So,
I did already see we have Facebook users in.
Love a
Every
Facebook
time.
user.
we do love a Facebook user. So good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Lewis. I've already introduced everyone here today. And the main question we are talking about today is about driving standards. But to mix it up a little bit, we're going to start off with competitions and the latest from the Club Racing UK goodie bag.
There you go.
Right, okay. So, Steph, Nick, what have we got so far? We have released some new clothing.
We haven't actually got
Straight in with the plugs.
Yeah, we've got some new hoodies and beanies on sale. So you can have almost any colour you like. It comes with a little logo on the breast there and on the reverse, which unfortunately I don't have an image of. You'll have a large logo across the back. Super comfy, super warm. If you fancy it.
It's getting chilly out there.
Oh, I didn't get a picture. Oh, no. So beanies, any colour, exactly the same. They look all like that, but you can have any colour you want. Unfortunately, I didn't actually upload an image, but we do have bubble hats as well. Exactly the same, with a nice little bubble on top.
Just got a little bubble on top.
Any colour you like, they're all for sale. So get yourselves on the shop and have a quick look. Yeah, or some merch. Website's down below. Head there.
That's it. Normally we normally plug this at the end, but we knew tonight's debate's going to go on for some time, so we figured to get these in and out of the way. Get them out early.
It is, absolutely. Now, if you are interested in getting yourself a Club Racing UK calendar for next year with some absolutely superb images like these appearing on your screen now, everyone loves a pit board, don't they?
Yes.
including our lovely marshals. That's a rather nice picture there. So, gents, if they want to get hold of a calendar, where can we head?
Again, head to the shop. Scroll on the banner down below, www.clubracing.uk, and then head to the shop. They are going to print, I believe, very soon. So everyone that has pre-ordered one, hopefully within the next couple of weeks, you'll be getting them. But they are in print at the moment. So, but again, pre-order
they will be there in time for Christmas as well. Don't worry.
Yeah. So
there we go.
Get your orders in.
Sorry, I didn't mean to mention the C word already. Yeah.
Christmas.
Stop it.
Love Christmas.
Right, if you have got a chance this evening as well, boys and girls, get yourself onto the Club Racing UK paddock page after the show, of course, to vote for your Club Racing UK awards, although there are some teething issues, I understand, Jen.
We're having teething issues with that at the moment. So, we have the awards up. Everyone's voting, but it was made aware to us today that some of them have stopped allowing you to vote, which is really bloody annoying because it means I'm going to have to do them all over again if I can't edit them. So bear with us. If we have to, we'll count all the numbers up, and then we'll have to add them on at the end or something. So sorry for that, guys. I have no idea why Facebook has done that. It's just shit. So yeah, bear with us. We are working on trying to figure out why they've stopped working.
Yeah. No problem. I'm afraid, gents, the bad news continues this evening because it appears our Facebook stream has gone down on the main page.
What?
Yes, it's crashed. So we're only going out to the paddock page and to the YouTube page. It's trying to
Why?
fix it. It's trying to fix itself, but for some reason, StreamYard is having trouble streaming to the main
Oh, that is
page.
rubbish. The driving standards of StreamYard have failed already.
I know, but to be honest, the comments have been coming in thick and fast already. Like Tom Brown, this one's going to go off like Matcham's fireworks. If you are watching,
we won't talk about Matcham's fireworks.
yeah,
No.
I mean, if you are still watching the show tonight, and you have a chance, people are wondering where the stream's gone, get the link out there for YouTube and the paddock. I believe StreamYard's continually trying to get it back out there on the Facebook site, but I think
Can we post the YouTube link on the paddock and on the main page while we're mid-show?
Yeah. Give me a sec.
Right, Steph's just doing that.
That's bloody typical, isn't it? A massive show like this.
Massive show, and StreamYard decides not to play ball. I can't believe that. But Sam Pearce has joined us. Evening, Sam. Vicky Pratt, All Square Rapper Ride, Tom Brown of the C1 Racing Club. We've got a lot of Facebook users this evening. If you have got a chance, guys, and you are watching on the paddock, when you make a comment, get your name on the end of the comment so we know who it is. Unfortunately, it only comes through to us like this. Chris Pearson, Jason Stone, Matt Cleary. I'm allowed in the living room tonight to watch it on the big telly. Why would you not?
We're on your telly. Wow, look how big we are.
Andrew Banthorpe. Tom Brown asked a question as well. Nick, have you just escaped from prison?
Oh, what? Because I'm wearing my. No.
He is wearing the pajamas.
I'm supporting my Orange Army.
Absolutely prime that. Now, talking about that, you can order yourself a Club Racing UK Orange Army shirt that Nick is wearing. Just get yourself onto the Club Racing UK website, go to the merchandise area and pick yourself one up. Or if you want one for your lovely race car, there we go.
Stickers.
You could pick yourself up a sticker as well.
Yes.
Right, Steph, have you managed to post it across yet?
I'm just doing it now. 2 seconds.
Oh, bloody hell. There's loads of Facebook users still coming in. The comments are flooding in thick and fast. David Christie of Camber Media have joined us. It's clearly he's got the YouTube link, so there's the YouTube there if you want to watch. Camber Media, clearly a sign of what a touchy subject it is.
Yeah, well, actually, that's typical Facebook, isn't it? You put something up that's against the grain, and they shut you down.
Well,
propaganda of the highest order.
Someone suggesting I've not paid the bill. I can assure you I have. I have. Don't worry about that. It's about £18.
No, you should say, Rob, we haven't sold enough bobble hats. Buy some bobble hats, and we can pay the bill.
Yeah. Stefan Marsh's link is still working, just the main page. Yes, it does look like it's crashed off the main page. I have no idea why it's done that.
Okay.
It's trying to do it. So we are live in the paddock and on the YouTube page. So we'll carry on. We've still got quite a few viewers on tonight. Finn Sport joins us.
Right,
Sam Pearce, now a Facebook user until the main page fixes itself. James Peter Ennis. Pete is an absolute legend. Got me through my odds. Can't recommend the Motorsport School enough.
Thank you.
Audi Club Racer moved across to YouTube so I could have you on the big TV. Thank you, mate. Good to see you at Motorsport Days Live, by the way. Right.
Yes.
We've tried to move through all the technicalities. We do apologise for that. I think it's time to ask the main question.
Hang on. We've still got some more plugs to go yet, Rob.
Still got some more plugs to go?
Yeah. So if you're sponsoring...
we've got one big one.
We've got one big one, though. If you're struggling for sponsorship this winter, looking forward to next season, please go to our website. There's a link to this on our website for sponsorship to Success Academy. They can definitely help you out with loads of methods. There's a course you can do all online to give you all the tools and knowledge to increase your sponsorship success rate. So head to our website.
Yes.
Links on the main page.
It's the time of year, isn't it? Everyone's building up for 2022.
Yes.
Indeed. And we have a partnership announcement tonight. So again, we're always trying to grow the Club Racing UK community with new drivers. So you can head to our website and find out exactly how you can become a racer in Club Racing. You can also do exactly the same on the Motorsport School's website, which is why we have partnered with them. Nice little logo there.
Yes.
So if you're new and want to get your license, we've partnered with the Motorsport School to give our members an awesome discount for your ARDS test. So again, you can apply for a membership with us straight on our website. So head there. Not sure Pete knows because I sorted it out with Mel, but
you spoke to the boss.
I spoke to the boss. So again, thank you very much to them guys, but they also want to support like we are, everyone in club racing. So massive thank you, and hope everyone can take advantage of that. And our last one is the ambassador program's open again for 2022.
Yes, it is.
We've got a short little advertisement video we'll play for all you audio listeners. We do apologise. You just have to listen to a nice tune for a minute and a half.
But if you want to see the video, love it. I love that video.
So ambassador program's open. So if you want to apply, again, head to our website. You need to become a member, and then all the information is on the website. You need to send us an email, just a profile about your intentions for 2022. You don't need to be a race winner. You don't need to be the number one at driving. You just need to be a racer with an ambition to go racing next year, pretty much. So
we're not looking for trophy hunters, as you've seen from our ambassadors this year. First time, could be your first ever season racing. You could have been trying for years. Doesn't matter. We're looking for personalities more than,
definitely
the next Lewis Hamiltons, etc. And yeah, obviously for this year or next year, sorry, the massive incentive is you will be getting entered into the Burkett Relay. So.
As Team Club Racing UK. So,
as Team Club Racing UK. So,
and that's what Club Racing is all about.
That's it.
Indeed.
That's exactly it. So
again, for the whole year, you'll be in partnership with us, so we'll support you for the whole year, along with our partners, which will be announced shortly. We're still finalising a few, so once that's all sorted, then we'll start to announce them. But get your entries in, guys.
That's it.
There we go. Right, can we go on to the main event then?
Yeah, why not? 15 minutes in.
Yeah, go for it.
15 minutes in. Right, so it is time for our main topic this evening, which is, of course, driving standards. Now, the reason we wanted to speak about this, first of all, my message box was inundated at various points this year with people after a race weekend. Something happened, high-profile events, etc., people saying, we need to talk about driving standards. It's driving me up the bloody wall. Well, then 3 weeks ago, everyone's email boxes should have dropped an email from the dark overlords that are Motorsport UK with a little survey for everyone, which more or less asks the question, have driving standards dropped? So that's the main question we are going to be asking this evening. Now, we're going to try and make this as balanced as possible. I understand that a lot of you out there would have had possibly an issue this year or last year or the year before. It all happens. At the end of the day, this is competitive motorsport, even if it is club racing. Accidents do happen. However, the survey did point out, first of all, I was kind of amused that it was towards the end of this season. Now, the first question I want to ask, I'm going to direct this at our two guests, Mick and Pete. So the survey was released towards the end of the season. Is this a reaction?
Just Motorsport UK. So you with Motorsport UK, you can never know. You can never know.
Pete,
do you think they just plucked it out of a hat and went, today's topic?
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
They have to be seen to be investigating. I should imagine a number of complaints that they would have had, because it's all over the TV, isn't it? Driving standards at the moment, and unfortunately, you look at the pinnacle in our country of motorsport, which is British Touring Car Championship. It really doesn't. I don't believe helps the situation we find ourselves in today with less than ideal driving standards at times. And unfortunately, from my point of view, I see it as monkey see, monkey do. And if the top guys can get away with it, then if they can get away with it, why can't we? And the worst thing is, you look at the junior formulas coming through, and they're starting off with that attitude, and it really does need to be nipped in the buds. Personally, I think it's down to the series organisers and the clubs, because ultimately they're the ones that are controlling those particular races. And it's someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to get hurt, and it's too late then. So it needs to be nipped in the bud and have a little bit more control. And maybe people need more education about it. But it's a non-contact sport. That's why we do it. We spend an awful lot of money on our cars, our preparation, time on preparation, money on preparation. It's an expensive weekend away, and to get fetched off on the first corner, or not even getting to the first corner. Yeah, it's not what we do. It's not how we do it. It's not how it was organised to be.
Okay,
yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, the point about the British touring cars, but what I would call the big boys. So I was going to sort of move on to that later on, but we've come to that discussion now. So I'll put it to you guys. So obviously, British touring cars has had some quite high-profile incidents over the past couple of years. I mean, the British GT this year as well had a number of GT4 cars go off at Donington in a big accident, where even the commentator was saying how dumb the moves were. And for someone that's meant to be impartial to be saying that, says a lot. And for those real hardcore fans, you had the Dtm Finale, where the title was effectively decided by a mercy move at the first corner. He just came down the inside and ploughed into everyone. So I'll put this to Mick, because obviously you.
Bollocks! That was before.
Throwing stuff around.
Well, I'll let you.
Inspiration in it.
Yeah, I mean, so at times you watch a lot of as well as the club stuff, you watch a lot of the big boys and do a lot of the stuff for the magazine. So what have you sort of seen that has gone beyond the level of being acceptable?
Well, obviously, just for the benefit of those who are watching, I'm also a photographer as well as a journalist and editor, so I spend a lot of time literally trackside shitting myself often. But with touring cars, I think it's what Pete said. I think, let's put it this way. If a touring cars, if you turned up and you were say, well, you can't carry any spares, would they drive the way that they do? Yeah. And I think that's one of the big differences between the big boys and the little boys. It's what you turn up with. If you know that you've got a crew there that's going to change your arse end when you're going to drive like it. But what Pete was saying about the younger drivers, I think that's been my big thing this year and last year, seeing the likes of Belinsky getting banned 2 years in a row, but not getting banned. Did you know that story? 12 points, 2 years in a row. And when you talk about Motorsport UK, I'll just pick my phone up. Bollocks. They're just not being consistent with it at the top level, I don't think. I think it's just absolute. But the thing is, though, trackside, from what I've said, I haven't really seen that much in the last couple of years that's been that bad. It's just the odd thing on streams and whatnot. If you're involved in it, then you're going to have a very different, like, see, when you get stuff in your inbox when people have been having a bit of a tough time and whatnot, but I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as what people think.
Yeah, I mean, Camber Media, they're on the YouTube side. British GT was beyond a joke at times. That kind of says...
Well, it was Spa. Spa was an absolute joke as well. The GT3s at the start was an absolute...
it's not good, is it? He also goes on to mention, though, British Touring Cars was weirdly very quiet this year with contact, apart from a certain person at the back. Now, I don't want people, to be honest, I didn't want it to come to people slagging off the medical car. I mean, the medical car.
I think even they finished further up the grid than that certain person that's being mentioned here.
Well, you know, just for argument's sake, let's not mention the medical car.
Yeah, we're not going to mudsling this evening, that's for sure. But
we've got a Facebook user again. I'll just reiterate, guys, we apologise for the fit. Oh, saying that, it looks like the feed
got it working.
The feed is now back up. Fantastic. The feed is now back up on Club Racing UK. I'm so sorry for the technicalities we've had there. But if you are commentating on the paddock, get your name in by your comment. But I'll use some of these comments anyway. So the DTM finale was an absolute joke. Liam Lawson was robbed. The officials equally at fault as the move in the first place. Penalties not harsh enough, clearly. Now, another one of the things in the survey, to me, there were some questions that regarded the clerk of the course. I should have wrote the questions down when I did the survey, but I've done it and sent it off. But I believe one of them did sort of suggest, are they putting in strong enough deterrence? Are they putting in strong enough punishment? So I put it to you guys, the four of you. So do you feel at times the clerks of the course, whether it be in a major series or in club series, are they being fair enough, or do you think they need to be stricter?
I would say stricter.
I think it's a difficult one. I think at times a little bit more education is necessary. I think it's a total different point of view some of the clerks have as a racing driver would have. If you could get the clerks of the course that had been racing drivers, I think it would make life so much easier, because unfortunately, you know, life isn't black and white. We live most of our lives in the grey area, and you know, what they may see as an optimistic move may not have been. You know, it may have been there was a gap there. The guy went for the gap, and then the other person just shut the door when he was at the side. And you know, who's going to get the blame for that? Then I think it really does need. It just needs to be a bit more rounded, I believe. I mean, I've been called up to the clerk of the course a couple of times with our drivers, and luckily, you know, we've I won't say we've talked our way out of it, but we've actually managed to show a little bit what I would see as common sense, which doesn't seem to be quite as common as you would like.
It's an optional extra these days, isn't
it? No, and you know, it's all right saying, well, you know, he did this at this point. Yeah, but you know, looking at the car where the cameras are, etc., in the driver's eye line, the driver could not see that flag because of the car that was blocking their way. And when they've seen that, and we're taking photographs of the car where the camera is, they've got, right, yeah, I can see exactly what you mean. And you know, I think they have to be aware that, you know, it's not always going to be, you know, black or white. There is going to have to be some little bits of common sense brought into it, and I think that's the problem. That a lot of officials will only go by the book. Blue flags being one of them. You know, it's quite poor, really.
I think though in their defence though, that you got to think as well. Some places, unless they're really fortunate, you know, as a clerk of the course, you've got to try and keep an eye on a live, busy racetrack.
Yeah.
You know, as we've seen this year with most of our grids, I'm speaking club level here.
Yeah.
You know, 30 plus cars on a grid at one time. You've got to then also manage your marshals, your service crews, you know, everything else going on around the track. So I can't imagine. I certainly don't envy a clerk of a course's job. And as you mentioned, Pete, it's you know, you could be looking over at turn 1 and keeping an eye on that area when something's kicking off at turn 5 over here, and then you can only go on what the two people have said. Oh, he's done this. Oh, he's done that. And then the only way you can really justify it is by the onboard cameras after the race. So, you know, sometimes penalties are given probably unjust. Maybe when you watch the evidence back, it then becomes a little bit more clearer to others.
I mean, I think it's just
it's a tricky one to.
The importance of footage is unbelievable, really, and it can either get you into jail or get you out of jail, and it is important. So I would recommend, guys, everybody put at least 2 cameras in your car, one forward, one rearward, facing, and and just do the best you can do. You have no control over what people do.
I mean, to be fair, a lot of series now, I don't know if it's an MSA, mate. I'll have to double check. Nor to me, I know, but a lot of series now, it is mandatory to have a front-facing camera with steering wheel and sight out the front. So, should it be a case? Should that rule also be enforced a lot more, as in make it part of the scrutineering?
It's a difficult one to police and enforce, really, isn't it? Because some clubs don't even legislate that you have to have cameras in the car. It's difficult. If it was my car, I know when my car goes out, there's at least 2 cameras in that car. There's one out the front and one out the back. It's amazing what goes on behind you, that the clerks can't see. And it's important. We shouldn't have to. The point is, if driving standards were better, do we need cameras? We didn't used to years ago.
No.
True.
But this is another point I kind of thought of. Social media is a wonderful thing. It's one of the main reasons Club Racing UK exists.
Indeed,
to an extent.
It's why you get to see 5 beautiful men on your screen this evening.
Exactly.
One must have gone, mate. One must have gone.
So Mick, I'll direct this towards you as a sort of a journalistic point of view. So, social media, does it have more of? I know there's the rule with the MSA about scrupulous events coming up on social media, and they're getting more aware of it. But does social media have the job? It highlights more incidents than it would 10 years ago because we've got the technology now to do that. I mean, how do you see it?
Oh, it absolutely is. Same everything. I mean, everything from social media to the amount of streams that you get at races now, just all across the board. It's just life in general. Everything's on social media, isn't it? But the thing is, as well, I mean, when you look at the MSC, we have put it the way of wording it. It's you can tell straight away they haven't really got. They need somebody full time to look at that themselves. They need somebody. I mean, it's an easy enough job. Have somebody monitor it all the time. See which way things are going. And in terms of highlighting it, well, simply.
It's too. Well, I say too accessible. It's good that it's accessible, but as you say, on one weekend you can flick between 3-4 live streams of different events going across the weekend, and unfortunately, the human nature behind it is thrills and spills sell, don't they?
Yeah.
And it's people knowing what. I mean, it's not just in terms of the MSC. I mean, we'll have all seen things. I mean, a lot of people don't realise that what you're throwing out on there is it's essentially you're governed by the same rules as what IPSO with the editorial code for journalism and whatnot. Like, for example, if you put something up there, you might get slapped down a bit. But for someone like me, punishment would be worse because I'm supposed to know what I'm talking about. But I'd like to see the highlight of things. It's just blown up all over.
Yeah, we'll get to some of the comments because they've been absolutely flying in as well. It starts lower down than the cars. Karting is famous for firing people off, so some kids are coming into cars with no respect for fellow competitors. This starts at the bottom. We've got another Facebook user. Again, guys, if you are on the Paddock page, don't forget to put your name on the end of the comments. Been doing this 18 years, and this is the worst year I can remember in motorsport as a whole. That's quite a strong view. We've been joined by Tony Hunter and Naomi James this evening. Good evening, guys. Hope you're well. We've got another comment here. Personally, I think all clubs from club level to pro should employ a driving standards combined test day before the season starts, where all drivers kind of have a basic driving style examination on the abilities of the driver and to encourage fair but hard racing rather than stupid manoeuvres which cost money. How feasible would that be, Pete?
I think it'd be difficult. I think to get everybody through. I know that there's one club out there, and I'll say it because I'm very proud of how they operate, and it's Classic Sports Car Club. Their driving standards seem to be pretty good, and they nip it in the bud straight away, which I think is fantastic. Even to the point of they have a test day at the beginning of every year. Now, for the last couple of years, they've asked us to go along to that test day, and there have been a number of members which have been told that if they don't get some proper tuition on their driving ability stroke standard, then they wouldn't allow them to register for that coming year to race. And again, that we've been more than happy to go along to that, and we've offered our facilities free of charge for the goodness of the sport, and we've done that just to make sure that we feel at the motorsport school, as we have a duty of care, not just to our customers, but to all the drivers that are out there, because one of our customers could be sat next to any of you guys, and unless we're happy with them, then they shouldn't be out there. And that's the way we look at it. That's our benchmark, really.
But I mean, that said, obviously we have to come along and do every person that races on a racetrack has to come along and do an ARDS test, don't they?
Yeah.
You can't just pick up a car and go, hey, I'm going to go racing. So you have to do a test, both theory and practical based, before you can even get onto a racetrack.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's be honest, it's not overly difficult to pass your ARDS test, is it, gentlemen?
No, it's for novices.
Maybe something that can be. Oh yeah, 100%. It's for novices, but maybe is there something? Obviously we've got different license stages, haven't we? Could something be introduced as you go up the.
And I see that as a good thing, to go from. We all know that you get your Club and RS license, your old National B, you get 66 signatures, then you go up to your National A. Maybe there's something in there where you have to go and maybe do like an advanced ARDS course to achieve that National A race license. There's nothing like learning, and you never ever stop learning, and things change. Some people are coming to do an ARDS course and they may not race that year, but they renew their license, and they may do 2 races the next year. And it's different. Things change, rules change. I mean, that could be part of it. All the new rule changes that have come in. We spend after the clients have watched their DVD, stroke USB stick, that they have to sat down to a 45-minute briefing just on flags and rule changes, and where the DVD is maybe a little out of date, because it's our duty of care to pass that information on. And we're at racetracks every single weekend throughout the UK, and we are always there to support anyone, any advice, any help we can give with it. It's what we do. It's our passion, and I hate to see any damage, because it's a lot of it is unnecessary. There's some bloody good club racing out there, and I've got to say, club racing is the best racing in the UK.
100%. So that is exactly why we shout about it, because
it is
it's hands down the best racing you will ever see.
And it's just unfortunate that there are a few people, and it is the minority, really. It is the minority, that people that come in and think it's okay to drive inappropriately, shall we say, and it spoils it for the people that unfortunately get tangled up in it. And there's nothing better than close racing, but there's no need. There can be close racing. There's certain championships where they'll go into a corner 4 deep and they'll all come out the other side. And there's other championships you can't go in 2 deep and they won't come out the other side, and and in fact you go in 1 deep and they don't come out the other side, some of the buggers. And I think this is where I think the clubs and the certain officials within that race series or race championship need to have a little bit more stronger word with the drivers. And if there's somebody that does it a couple of times, then I'm sorry, but you're excluded from the series or championship.
Just on your point there, Pete. There's a point here from Paul Harvey. Club racing clerks need to grow a pair. I've been in to see them about poor driving of other people I've raced against. Nothing happened. Some series organisers are also too political and won't challenge the poor standards. I think that's to do with there have been issues which we all hear it down the line. You have teams that are in certain championships that sponsor the series. They get caught up in an issue and things get swept under the carpet a bit. So
it needs to be impartial, doesn't it? You got to keep your best interests out. At the end of the day, we're all effectively customers to a championship, and we're not. So we should all effectively get the same kind of treatment on track. Yep. We all work hard for our cars. We all work hard for we slave away 5 days a week, go away for a weekend. At the end of the day, we should all come away with what we started with. Well, less fuel, less tires, bigger smiles. Yeah. Really, that's what we should all be leaving with.
We should work. We should work as a team. We should work as a team, whether it be, I mean, we must remember, and every party of this must remember this, that the racers can't do what they do without the marshals and the officials. The officials can't do what they do without the marshals and the racers. The marshals can't do what they do without the officials and the racers. And we're one big family out there, really, even though it seems to be divided at times. And it does upset me, because we should all be singing off the same hymn sheet. We all love the sport, and it is the best sport out there. It's just unfortunate that money comes into it. But at the end of the day,
take the money out. Take the money out. Free race cars.
I wish it was that easy.
But it's all about people that work hard, go racing, need to be safe, and they need to look after their investments. And we should all be doing that, whether it be you're driving a C1 or you're driving in BTCC or TCR or GTs or F3. It doesn't matter. No. It's I think when you get higher up the scale, a lot of the cars become insured. I think a lot of the clubman guys don't insure cars because they can't afford to. And I think then it's insured. And like you said earlier, I think it was Mick that said it, they'll turn up with, 4 wings, 4 doors for each side, 4 bonnets, 4 bumpers, just put another one on. In our world, the real world, it doesn't work that way. And it shouldn't work that way. Having said that, I was at a junior event earlier on this month, and there was one team that pulled up with another vehicle full of panels. And that said it all to me. That said it all to me. If you can't pass someone cleanly, you're not quick enough. You're not quick enough. Get some tuition.
It's
Chris, on the money side, Chris Pearson, fines are only a punishment to those less well off. What's your thoughts on that, Mick?
Oh man.
Well, I've got no money, so it will tip me hard. I don't think fines is the way. No,
I don't think so. I think
being proactive. Right. I mean, I know that. I mean, I don't risk myself, but I think putting people trackside with marshals, I think should be mandatory. I think that, but before you get your full license, you should have at least one day or one weekend with the marshals or with a clerk or someone like that. And I think everybody should have that, just to see what's the effect of what they do. It's going to have on people,
I agree with you 100%, Mick. On our days, we advise everyone to go and do a day's marshalling. It's one signature on the upgrade card.
Not just as a token thing either. Because I know that the way things have gone this year, there's a lot of people who say, support your marshals, which we all should. But it shouldn't just be a token thing because of what's happened this year. People should be putting their time in because people should have time for you.
And you should have to, before you lose your novice cross, it should be mandatory that you have to do one marshal day. Not just because you get, for anyone who didn't know, if you go and do a marshal's day, you get a signature on your license.
You do, and it's free.
It's free.
Yeah.
It's a great laugh. I think it was James Stone Street gave us a report on his day out
Yeah.
marshalling, which was
Well, I mean,
fantastic insight to what you're going to do.
The same thing,
I've
Nick.
Should be
done it.
mandatory.
If not going and doing the marshalling, even if it's a pair of twats that are sat in a Mitsubishi Outlander on a scorching hot day trying to be a pace car, volunteer doing something, because it was what I mean, Steph. What was the one thing that we said as part of that day? Hearing everything going on over the radios, there was a lot more to it than we think, wasn't it?
There is.
Constant. There's so much goes on that you don't realise.
Yeah,
behind the scenes, and they're extremely busy all day long.
But it's not just on track, is it? It's not just waving flags on track. It's assembly area. It's gridding people up. There's an awful. The marshals do, on the whole, a great job. Same as every other area. I always think there's always room to improve, and I think that's just human nature. But as I said earlier, we recommend everybody go and do a day's marshalling. But what we also do every year, we have the marshals come to us and we give them free time in the car on track. And
fantastic!
A lot of that's just to say thank you, and it's wonderful, because what we've done in the past, and what we always do, is we put flags in marshals' posts, and I haven't yet in 11 years to have a marshal pick a flag up.
Yeah,
they don't see it, and they're driving around 4 cars on track at the time, no more, and they still can't see flags. Yet they expect us as racers to be surrounded by 30 other cars and see flags. And I think it's
change
great.
gear, press pedals, turn the steering wheel, and also look out the right of your window to find a slippery surface flag or something.
Yeah, and adhere to the rules and regs as well.
Yes.
And we do it just as a thank you, to say, for what you've done for us guys. And also so they can see it from our side as well, because it's a family thing, isn't it? We're all in the same family. We've got different jobs within that family, but we do need to understand each other's job a little bit more, I think. And we're more than happy to, if marshals ever want to come down to the motorsport school, they can all jump in car and we'll take them out and have some time on track with them, so they can see it from our point of view.
Yeah,
superb. I've got to get on with some of these comments, guys, because there's so many. I'm filtering.
I told you this was going to go nuts tonight.
Biggest issue is a lack of spatial awareness. Twice I've had drivers hit me and say they didn't see me, but we were side by side on the previous corner. Where did they think I went? Again.
Yeah.
And the only thing to look at the different side of it, to look at, not everything's doom and gloom. Sometimes it can be a case of we're not professional drivers, apart from you, Pete. So occasionally, to put it bluntly, we will fuck up. I mean, Nick, we take the piss out of it. You had a bit of a bump in your first year with the KAs. I've made stupid mistakes. Steph, you've made stupid mistakes.
100%.
I'm sure. It does happen. And I mean, the other thing about that, I think as well, is the ego side of it. Sometimes drivers need to remember that they are not in the British Touring Car Championship. They are at a club event.
I don't think, but I think you're missing the point a little bit there. You don't need to compare yourself to the British Touring Cars or anything like that. It's the ego. Use my example in the Enduro KA. First year, I hit the back marker. I straight up at the time was fuming. I was spitting feathers. The driver in front of me was a bloody idiot. He should have moved out of my way. He should have been blue flag, blah, 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 blah. No, at the end of the day, I was an impatient little shit that tried to squeeze through a gap that wasn't there. And as a result, it took me and my team out of the race for a split. If I just backed off a bit, I would have passed him in the next corner. Yeah. But Mr. Hothead, get out my way, I'm fighting for 5th place here.
Yeah.
Made a mistake. If you can put your hands up at the end of it, right, I didn't when I was in the pit lane. A couple of days later, I quite happily put my hand up. I think it was actually when we looked back at the footage, wasn't it? I was like, no, I was definitely down the side of him. I was definitely down the side of him. I was definitely down the side of him. Saw the footage and went, I was nowhere near him.
Yeah,
but
100%. And quite rightly, and I mean that's another thing, because you put a post up with the footage on, didn't you?
Yeah.
And quite rightly, everyone came on there. So that's another thing with social media. Mick, I'm going to come back to you. So drivers apportioning blame to the others. How often do you see that now?
No, but what you should ask is how often do I see somebody hold their hands up and see it was my fault? Because that's never.
Yeah. So do you
That's
think is it a case of there should be more people check their egos at the door?
Oh, I think, yes, absolutely, yeah. I mean, some of the things I see, if you stood trackside with me, you'd be absolutely shocked at some of the stuff that you see out there sometimes. It's like keep going back to people thinking that they're in the BTCC. It's not even that. I mean, it's sometimes you see things that you just think, what's going on in the head? I mean, whoever it was who put up the thing about spatial awareness, sometimes standing some of the places where I stand, that not public standing places, you get very close to cars. You can see the fear in people's eyes when they've got people coming up behind them.
Yeah.
And they haven't got an ego, but it's the people behind. Sometimes you got to think like we're saying about who's ahead of you and letting them, just trying to race around them. Because as Pete said earlier on, it's about customers these days, isn't it? Because you're paying to race.
Yeah,
and you got to look at everybody and think, And
I think it's so easy, when, especially, I mean, there's a lot of long distance racing out there now, or longer distance racing than there ever was before, with 40 minutes an hour races or whatever. And that means there's going to be a lot more lapping out there because there's more time on track. And I think people that forget, especially with the lower cost formulas, which are some of the bloody best formulas out there, like such as your C1, etc. And your City Car Cup and your KA, it is a lower price level. However, that doesn't mean to say it has to be lower standard and less and any less fun, because it's not. In most cases, it's more bloody fun. But the problem is, because of what the sort of racing it is, it does encourage a lot of newbies into the sport, which I think is brilliant, absolutely fantastic. But on the back of their car, they've got a big yellow square with a black cross in the middle. And I think it's down to the driver that's catching that novice up to use their common sense. They're the more experienced guy out there. They're the people that should be showing the novices a little bit more respect. Because don't forget, they had a first day out there at some point, and they didn't like it if someone come barging the way through and elbows out. And I think we need to address that as well, because I don't think people think, oh, you're a novice, you're in my way. No, they're not in your way. They're on their racing line. It's down to the faster car to get past that car safely, not to push it out of the way because it's where they want to be. And I think a lot of it comes from there. And everybody's paid the same entry and they deserve the same amount of track. And, without the newer people coming through, motorsport would finish, because eventually all the old gits won't be doing it. And we need the new blood coming through, and I think you don't want to put them off with the poor driving standards and the poor etiquette out there of not giving the newer people, they're shitting themselves at times. Even in a KA, it's bloody quick. They're not used to going into corners at the speeds that they do, because when they're driving on the road, everything's controlled to 30, 40 mile an hour, isn't it? And it is new to them. And I think people just need to be a little bit more sympathetic. And if they're that quick, they'll pass them on the next straight, or they'll get them on the exit of the corner. Get the undercuts on them, but don't just barge through thinking that's my bit of tarmac because I'm quicker than you.
Yeah. There we go.
No.
Right, some more comments, because, like I say, they are absolutely piling up. Sam Pearce: British touring cars have had profile accidents since day dot. I don't think it's a recent year's issue. Senna controversially won the championship in 1990, taking Prost out at turn 1. Obviously, the high-profile races are and always will be a spectacle. The same as Premier League footballers rolling around on the floor. Unfortunately, some kids will think they could do it in a Sunday league. Unfortunately, we are talking at a club level, which generally has a mixture of experience, maturity, and talent levels. There is more to that comment, but for some reason, StreamYard does have a character limit. Sorry, Sam. The only way, Ross Craig says, the only way you know about a crash 15 years ago, if you weren't at the circuit, is if it was a picture in Autosport or other publications. Again, Mick, as we were saying, social media. Sam Pearce agrees. Social media is a huge factor. People want that two-wheel or sideways photo and will drive to get it because it gets likes, uploading their footage, etc. Ego trips. Again, checking the ego at the door. Paul Rice, as well as commenting on the JSCC having forward and rear-facing cameras. He loves the look of Steph's gold chain. Have you got it out tonight? Have you got the gold chain out tonight, Steph? Or is it your
gold?
Oh, it's not gold.
It's not gold.
There we go. There will always
Still
be
a
more
day.
than one opinion in regards to incidents, but it shouldn't be a trigger for online bullying. That's a very good point.
100% behind that.
Stuart Windows, 750 Motor Club have to have forward-facing cameras. Yep. And it's something you've got to do next year. I think personally it should be an MSA thing now. Let's be honest. I've just got this ready for next year from mum and dad. It's a GoPro style camera, HD. You can pick them up now. Decent kits for very reasonable money. It's either that or a racing tyre.
Thing is, right? Just quickly though, it's great. Like Pete said already, it's putting cameras in a car is great. It covers your ass. It covers your ass after the race.
Yep.
You know, you can't upload it during. You know, it's not like turn into turn 2, quick. Press this button, upload it to the guys in the thing. It's not going to cover you for that.
And, that's the thing there, because me and you watch Supercars.
It'll cover your ass after an incident.
Yeah. So me and you watch Supercars, and they have. You all watch V8 Supercars, yeah? Probably.
Yeah.
Steph watched a bit afterwards. So they have the thing where if you take someone out of a race, the officials will take you out of the race and give you a drive-through penalty. Bang. But the problem is with that, because one of the big series, they already have the footage upstairs to look at. And they're looking at it and deliberating so they can go, right, car number 5, drive-through penalty for driving infringement. We don't have that at club level.
But that's why I think you should have a serious, I don't know, maybe each series or club has a point system, you know, and once everything's reviewed after a race, if you have done wrong, you get 2 points on your card. When you hit 12 points, you're not accepted for the next round, or you've got to miss a race, or
effectively, you've already got that though, haven't you, with the license system?
Yeah.
But does that work? If you're going for a license, but if you can get a club to manage its own customers, it's going to be easier than asking the officials to manage, license points and stuff like that. If you know what I mean, because at the end of the day, the series organizer are going to want good, clean racing. They don't want you crashing all the time. So if they police it themselves, is that a way forward?
I believe so.
I think that would definitely help. But I think also marking your license as a whole, because the problem is you don't want to be in a certain club, get XYZ points. That club kicks you out, and then you go, well, fuck it, I'll go over to this club over here. And then start afresh with fresh points. If you're a knobhead driver, you're just going to keep going around every club possible, crashing your way through it. So maybe as a group of clubs, there needs to be some kind of database for everybody. And
I'm sure that all the clubs that we have in the UK, they're all good at what they do. They've all got their own little skill sets with different types of cars, etc. But they're all sensible people. They're all, and they're good clubs, and that's why our club racing is so good in the UK. However, I think if you had that, if I was the chairman of a club, or I was a driver standard representative for a club, and I knew that someone wanted to come to that club because they've been asked to leave another one, then do I really want that person in my club?
No, exactly.
You've got to ask that question, haven't you?
But then how are you going to know? How are you going to know that
at the moment that you don't, do you? You don't. It's only hearsay at the moment.
It's only because someone said, "Oh, by the way, XYZ over here did this at this race."
Been banned from here. Yeah. But I think the clubs would do better off by having a common ground area where that could be public knowledge, really.
You should have a standard practice like you do on your driving license.
Yeah, it's difficult for the clubs.
3 points. I don't know. Motorsport UK should be dealing with this, should they not?
Yeah,
they issue the licenses.
Yeah, that's a very point. But through that, you have the clerk of the courses. There's lots of comments coming in about that. So Jonathan Bevan. Clerk of the courses need to want to deal with the incidents at club level. The issue for the clubs are grateful for the entries, and penalties are not harsh enough. People drive a 4KO for 6 events and then jump in a 500 horsepower monster. Now, just going on from that, I am going to come back to some of the earlier comments. Don't worry about that. there was a few comments that have come in regarding the clerk of the course. AJ Owen, in my fair few dealings with the clerk of the course and officials, they need a lesson in people skills. It's like going to the headmaster at school. We as club racers should do and be better, but the officials should be better for us at the same time. I do remember a certain, at the end of the day, AJ, we all make mistakes, mate. We've had our tumbles. At Lyddon, I was made to stand outside against the wall while he made his decision.
And
you have to sit on the naughty step.
AJ's no fool. He's good at what he does. He's quick at what he does. And, I just think they have a blanket for everybody. And it is difficult at times because they only see what they're told. And unfortunately, they get told a lot of things from marshals who, like I said earlier, don't understand it from a driver's point of view. And I think if in an ideal world, all marshals and all drivers would have, and all clerk of the course would have raced in an ideal world, and all drivers would have gone and done marshalling courses. So, but we don't live in that ideal world. And, we are only human and we all do make mistakes at time. And that's why they put rubbers on pencils. And we will continue to do so. But I do think that penalties need to be enforced, but I do think that at first they should be done maybe by the club with a driving standard representative, and then if it needs to go higher, then it can go to the clerk of the course. But I do feel as if they're going to have a driver's representative, it needs to be somebody with that experience. My views.
No, that's fair enough. Mick, I've got a different one for you here, mate. Do you cover sim racing a lot?
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay, so I've sort of coming with an outsider view here. Charles Boniface, I think sim racing where there are no consequences doesn't help. For people of all ages just thinking they can come just from a home setup to a real life racetrack where the safety and financial repercussions are very real. People, I think, believe racing is safer than it is. The idea of rubbing is racing doesn't help either. As has already been said, it is a non-contact sport. You wouldn't rub in an open wheeler. Very good point there, because if you did that, it will hurt. The basics of racecraft should maybe be something taught within the arts.
Yeah. Do you know what, right? I absolutely stand by Charles's comments there, because I think, talking of sim racing and, people do a lot of it. Obviously, it's massively common now. People don't realise as well, you come along, you can't just press and hold the reset button when you're upside down at Paddock Hill.
No.
It doesn't work that way in the real car.
Well, okay, so expanding on that, Nick, so there's two things that coincide there, because Sam Pearce, are people getting excited post-COVID quarantine? So what were people doing a lot, including myself, during COVID quarantine? Sim racing. So chaps, has quarantine affected it? Has sim racing affected it? Discuss.
I think sim stuff has got its place. I really do. I think it can be very, very useful, especially if you want to learn a track. But again, there's such a variation, isn't there? It's almost like saying, well, you can go and drive a KA, or you can drive an F1 car. You can have your little sim kit at home, or you can have your full blown, professional kit, and there's a big difference, and there's a big difference to the feel. Having said that, they all have a reset button, which you don't in the real world.
That's it.
I don't go near sims, and any of our lads at work will tell you that the last person you need on a sim is me. I couldn't. We had a big corporate event. I couldn't get out the bloody pit lane. Honestly, I was hitting everything by an apex. But put me in a car, I'm okay. But because that's my comfort zone, really. Whereas a lot of the guys that come, I've done sim racing, I've done this, I've done the other, and yet a lot of them, don't get me wrong, a lot of them are bloody good. They are really good. But then you get others who think it's as easy as just driving around on a sim. We took some of our guys to the Nürburgring last year, and the one of our instructors that worked with us had spent hours going around the Nürburgring on his sim. Got there and shit himself because it was nothing like what it was on the sim with the undulations and everything. and he was the first one to bottle out, really. I do think they've got a place. I think they're fantastic, but it's not depending on
the real deal.
It's not the real deal, is it? And I think that's where people get confused, that they can do a bit of rubbing on there and it's not going to hurt. They haven't got a bill to pay at the end of it, and neither has the other guy that they've run into. And, and no one's life's at risk. That's the important thing. No one's life's at risk.
That's the thing. If you do get it wrong on a sim, spin someone out, something like that, granted. But if you do have a big accident on a sim, worst case, you get thrown out your seat.
Worst case scenario, you're going to blow a fuse, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%. I mean, to be fair, there are a few blown fuses happening out on the real life circuits. It's just people stood in the offices afterwards with steam coming out of their ears. Back to some of the comments there. AJ Owen, a majority of clubs desperate for members result in too many, let's brush it under the carpet because they don't want to lose a member.
I'm not sure if that's the case at the moment. I think we're oversubscribed, if anything, at the moment. This year's been oversubscribed everywhere you've gone.
I don't know who this person is, but they're a legend for that comment, because that's one way of putting it. I think that'll appeal to Mick Palmer's heart. Too many people live by the motto "rubbing is racing," and to me, that's utter bollocks. That's one way of putting it.
So okay, well, let's talk on the whole rubbing is racing thing. Yeah, obviously, in a high-profile movie, as we've already said, BTCC is renowned for a bit of rubbing. Supercars. There's some fantastic racing in the BTCC. I don't want to keep bashing the BTCC because there is some really good door-to-door stuff. We talk about the V8 supercars, the Aussie stuff. There's some amazing door-to-door racing in there, but there is also some rubbing, nudging, etc., etc., etc. But it's not.
I get that.
It's because it's because it's highlighted. It's because it's exciting.
Yeah, I get that. But case in point, this year, Nick, we have the video on the show. I did try and upload it, but for some reason the bloody file's corrupt. But case in point, we had the video on the show halfway through the year, which was Gary Preble and AJ Owen for about 5 laps, side by side into the final corner. No contact.
100%. Another prime example of that was, and it's still one of the best things I've ever seen. And I'm not being biased because it was our own teammate, but you had Matt Hibbard in the Ford KA, and you had Callum McDougall from Frugal Racing. They spent 2-3 laps of Brands Hatch Indy side by side, and they didn't touch each other once.
Yeah, and that is why British club races are the best.
It was fantastic to watch, and they managed to trade zero paint because they both had mutual respect for each other whilst driving around. So you don't have to rattle off the door of the guy next to you to get past. You know?
I think there's a difference between very close racing and just having a little kiss and a little rub, which is, which is accidental, it's not deliberate. Then bailing down the inside into someone, knowing that there's no chance they're going to stop unless the other car assists. That's totally different, And I think we need to differentiate between the two. Good close racing is the best thing that to be involved in and to watch. I think we all agree with that. However, close racing when someone's close because they've come through your door is totally different.
Yeah, because you've had to move out the way of someone because they've made a do or die lunge.
They've run out of talent. They've looked in the glove box on the way in. Oh, that's it. That's empty too. We'll use the car in front to slow us down. And and that's the problem. Really, it really is. It's not the close racing where there's a little kiss here and a little kiss there. I'm sure whoever's rubbed against the other driver, I'm sure at times the other drivers had a similar incident, especially in your one make stuff. I mean, you look at Mazda's, that racing is fantastic. Mazda MX-5, brilliant racing, so close, and they're good drivers, and there's no two ways about it. And unless, which you don't see with the good drivers, just pounding people off, they're there to race. You see it further back. You see it further back, midfield and towards the back. That's where you see it on the whole.
I mean, like we said earlier, even with the top level stuff, you've still got the medical car at the back causing issues. You said that. Sorry, you said there, Pete, about the one make stuff. It's just because we had the comments coming in. So Robin Welch, who we had on with the C1 Racing Club recently, so he says things like CSCC and Club Sport, various modifieds have less contact as the potential contact window is small because they're more likely to power past each other. But he then goes on to say one make is a lot closer for potential contact, window as it may take 4 laps to pass one car. But then that should be where the skill comes into it. I mean, the two to the side of me, I mean, you guys have spent 2-3 seasons perfecting that, haven't you?
Yeah.
I mean, setting the car up for the move like it should be done. And Sam makes a point as well. Some contact is unavoidable. You are occasionally going to get it. Same make series, big grids into turn 1. Someone is going to touch. That's close racing / rubbings racing, not bad driving standards. There is a fine line between the two.
Yeah, it's just differentiating between the two, isn't it?
Yeah. Robin Welsh has also said about there was a comment from Matt Clary, maybe a little bit unjust, saying about the bigger teams using C1s and KAs as a free-for-all racing. I don't think that's the case. They still care about it. Robin also stressing, and I know Stuart Garland will do as well, the C1 club have banned several people this year, and that's through getting footage after the race. I know, and we spoke about it earlier, Nick. After what happened with you at SNET, we did get a bit of a telling off, didn't we? There was dialogue, and we were told if you do it again, you're out.
Yeah, 100%.
And that was fair enough, and we learned from it and took it on board, and that's how you proactively go about it as a club racer.
Yeah, 100%. And then we won it the year after.
Yeah, exactly.
Slipping that in there.
Yeah, just slip that in there.
Of course I am.
Canberra Media, fines are irrelevant to teams with funds, need to be disqualified from future events on repeat offences. Absolutely. What do you think of that, Mick?
Absolutely. That's what I said earlier on. I mean, I think that there's a bit too much of an onus on dishing out punishments for things that have happened as opposed to educating people before they go and do it. And I think fines, like I said earlier on, won't work. I mean, it's things like when you go back a few years, remember those F3 races at Monza and Spa, the Euro F3, and they cancelled the race? I mean, you couldn't really do that kind of thing, could you?
No.
Because people would just say, right, fuck it, I'm off to a different series. Yeah. But fines.
And that's when the licensing thing needs to be,
Yeah.
I think it's hard because you're going to have, as we said earlier about egos and stuff like that, I said you can only educate someone so much. When they've jumped in the car, your mindset goes into racing. In sort of your ego takes over in some respects, but you're racing then. And if that person's at that point saying, I need to be ahead of that person, I don't care really what happens, no matter what you educate them, they're going to go and do it. So that's when I feel that it needs then to come back to, as Pete rightly said, the clubs first, to monitor the driving standards, and then if it gets more serious, go up to the MS UK. But I think education will only get you so far, because I do believe that when you're in that moment, sort of common sense does leave the mind slightly.
I think there's one other thing as well. It's a pretty dark way of looking at it, but when you used to go back to the 80s and the 90s, and maybe even the early 2000s, you pick up your auto sport every Thursday, and then obviously we didn't have coverage the way it was then, and every now and again you'd pick up, hit the club section at the back, and there'd be a fatality, and you'd get a couple of years at national club level. That's gone. I mean, when was the last time? I mean, we don't want it to come back, obviously, but I don't think that's not there playing on people's mind, and it can still happen.
Yeah, it can.
Well, we've seen it this year.
We have, unfortunately, and it's horrible, isn't it? And I think it just highlights, and people think, I'm in a KA, I'm in a C1, I'm safe. You just as much risk, and it proved it this year. And people need to value their lives and everybody else's around them a little bit more, I think. And it's a shame, really, because, and I agree exactly what Mick said. He's 100%. He's on the button. Fines aren't the way forward. Penalties are, whether they have points taken off them, or they're giving grid penalties for the next race, or they're excluded from the next race. If they want to go for a championship, or they're going for whatever, to be made sit out of that next race and watch it, that's going to hurt them a lot more than saying, right, you owe us 300 quid.
Okay, but then what happens when you're racing in a series and you're just doing a guest race here or there?
Well,
you get a grid penalty for your next race. I might not do one for the rest of the year, or
well,
might go somewhere else.
Yeah, well, and that's when that license comes in, isn't it? What we've been talking about, because if all clubs knew that, if they had a common, I hate to say it, because I'm not that sort of person, but like a common union, yourselves would be a classic example. Club Racing UK.
Club Racing UK.
If something was to happen at BRSCC with driver B next week, they notify you. You put it out around all the clubs. So just to let you know, guys, there was this incident. This is what's happened. We just think you ought to be aware in case that they're racing with you in the future. Keep your eye on them. Yeah. And I think really,
that's it. The bad apples will soon get found out, won't they? Surely it'll be. You start making a name. You start making a name for yourself, don't you? And then people, it will filter around.
We would hope these people learn pretty quick, though. I mean, we are talking about the minority as well, aren't we?
Oh yeah.
This is the record. We do it for enjoyment.
I mean, the clubs do a fantastic job of getting everything organised because, again, and we're all guilty of it. We send our entry fee off. We turn up at the events. And we expect everything to be there in place, and it doesn't happen by one click of the button. It does for a driver sending their entry off. There's so much goes off behind the scenes, and so many people put their not life at risk as such, but they put their life on hold, and they put an awful lot of effort into it. We have quite an involvement with quite a few, most of the clubs actually, and when you see how hard that the club officials work to make it an enjoyable place to be for their members, they're doing a bloody fantastic job. Because I wouldn't want to do it. It's a thankless job as well. Then that's the other thing. It's same as the marshals. It really is still a thankless job, isn't it? They turn up first thing in the morning. They're the first ones there. They're the last ones to leave. They don't earn any money. Yeah. They're out in the rain, the snow, the shit, the lot, and they don't get paid. They're doing it for the love of what we do as well. And without the marshals, we can't race. Without us, they can't marshal. We're a family. It goes back to us all being that family again.
Yeah. We're all there for a common. We're all there for a common.
The love of the sport.
Aren't we?
Yeah. Now we've got a couple of comments here from Robin and from Nick Goff from More in Motorsport. So we've got Robin. So next year the C1 Club are insisting you change the SD card at every driver change. They can then deal with more midway through a race, which is a very good idea.
Yeah.
Now, Nick Goff does say the problem with clubs policing it themselves is they're penalising their own customer. That won't last long. Should be MS UK doing it and doing it well. Avoidable contact should be 6 points straight away. I get that. I mean, personally, I think with the clubs policing it themselves, I can get they're penalising their own customer, but that can also work the other way. So if people realise that the club's not going to put it simply, the club's not going to take any shit.
Yeah, you're going to get more people want to race with them because they know good, clean racing.
You may be penalising one customer, but you might be looking after another 20.
Yeah, 100%. Jonathan Bevan also makes a point with the cameras in the car. That's the biggest problem, as people forget to put the cameras on and the memory cards are full. And again, it goes to it should be a scrutineering issue then. If you're going to put that into the regs, then it should be a case of the scrutineer can come up and go, right, switch that camera on. And I want
assembly area.
Is your camera switched on? I want to see that it's recording. And then,
you need a wired GoPro remote. That would help.
Yeah, that's
what you do. Wired GoPro remote.
See, that's the electrician at work again. So many plugs, Nicholas.
Send us the commission.
Okay, so why don't I know obviously we put, like you say, you've just got your own camera. We run a GoPro. Well, we run a wired GoPro. So why don't I know it means extra cost. But why don't the championships issue the car? Why don't the championships issue the SD cards when you sign on? When you sign on, you will get a blank card, and you have to put it back in at the end of the race, or as you do driver swaps and stuff like that. SD cards are pennies, aren't they? Really? Could they not have championship SD cards? Yeah, championship SD cards.
Hand it back to them.
Yeah, so you get a clear card. It's all formatted, ready to go.
Yeah.
with the championship logo all over it and everything. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all of that.
Isn't it? It's right though, because that, you know, it's good for the club because it gets the club name out there all the while. It's good for the club's, you know, the series or the race sponsor because it gets their name out there all the while. I think there's a lot of pluses for that, but you still can't make them put it in, can you? That's the bloody. Unfortunately, when you're talking about human beings, you're talking about people like me, and unfortunately, you know, you forget things, don't you? Especially in the heat of the moment. You know, you pull up into the assembly area. The last thing you're going to think of is my memory card in there, and I hate to say it, but that's when the likes of your V boxes are bloody invaluable because it does it for you. You know, just leave it in, and it, you know, it picks up on his GPS and starts recording. And you know, that's the mega bonus. That is just for people like me, anyway. So,
so we're slowly working our way through the comments. We're still 20 minutes behind on the comments. It's just flooding in. It's brilliant tonight. Thank you, everyone. Joe Cruttington, the biggest one is pit lane etiquette, especially in multiple driver races. How there haven't been some serious incidents yet is beyond me. I get that in close racing that the races can be won or lost in the pits, but when you have two cars sharing a garage, case in point, there was quite a near serious incident at Snet this year.
Snetterton, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was Snetterton. I'm not going to name the series. Let's just keep it neutral for the moment. Did you see that, Mick?
Yep.
What were your thoughts?
I was supposed to be there, and I was glad that I wasn't.
I mean, to be fair to the series in question, next round. To be fair to the series in question, next round, bang, the rule change came in. All cars at 45 degrees. You will do it like this, and that's it. Bang. So they recognised the issue. Something happened. They had their near miss. Bang! They put it into place. So you could go, you know. So that's a good point from Joe there. Chris Pearson, listening to another podcast last night.
What?
Sacrilege. Now, to be fair, mate, I listen to loads of motorsport podcasts.
Yeah, don't worry, we do.
One of the British.
Was it the sausage curb?
All sorts.
There you go. We just gave him a name drop. Hopefully, it will get returned.
Well, you never know. We'll see what occurs. One of the British touring car rookies has said that sim racing has been quite gentlemanly, and British touring cars was like a bar fight in comparison.
I'm right about the podcast then, because we know who that guy is.
Yeah, Abe Matthews. I don't think the average sim setup helps with spatial awareness. It's easy to get fixated, not use the mirrors. Might translate over to the real thing. One from a Facebook user here. I think we're all adult enough to understand that accidents do happen, and yes, gaps can close, especially at club level. Poor driving standards is people thinking they're in the BTCC plus Bourbon is racing attitude. It isn't. If you want to bang to gain a place, then there's a series for that. Banger racing. That's a good point.
Yeah. That's Patrick Seal, by the way.
That is Patrick Seal. Okay. Is it the arrive and drive stuff where they don't spend way too many hours having to build and fix?
To be fair, that's a good conversation one.
Okay, so what do you think? Arrive and drives, is that an aspect of it?
Yes.
If they've got insurance.
Mick?
I think it doesn't help.
Depends on how much you're spending and what level it's at. I mean, what kind of arrive and drive? It's something like the Focus Cup. You don't get much trouble in that, do you? Even up at the top of TCR UK. I mean, I know people are a bit down on the series, but 17 cars at the last round this season and the big grid coming next year. But most of them are arriving, driving. You're effectively driving something that's only second half off a touring car, and they can race the same tracks without hardly touching each other. Well, the guys at the front anyway.
Yeah, I think if with some of the lower formulas arrive and drive, it's not their equipment, is it? And a lot of the people that do that are new to the sport as well. I think anything where they have to have insurance, or they've got arrive and drive, and they're told that they've got to have insurance, and rightly so. I think people then think they're invincible, and they're living in this bubble that I'm insured, nothing can happen to me. You know, I'm safe. Unfortunately, that isn't always the case, is it? As we know.
You do. I mean, talking of the money factor, you do get some people that have got more money than sense will buy an arrive and drive, And the whole bend it, mend it thing doesn't bother them because they can just be like, well, okay, here's a couple of extra grand to fix your car. You know, you don't get penalised for writing someone else's car off. You don't have to pay for that.
No.
But I'm thinking worst case there. But, you know, for some people that just do have cash to just throw around, not necessarily, well, I mean, if you've got cash to throw around, you don't normally build your own race car, do you?
Yeah,
Lots and lots of money.
That's how you've got cash lying around, because you haven't built your own race car.
Nick, as to your comment there with the SD cards, Rob Mays pipes up here. In the Pickup Truck Championship, they do run their own GoPros with SD cards supplied at the start of every round.
And there you go. Yeah.
There we go. An SD card.
It's only an idea. I'm not saying it's a necessary.
I mean, an SD card should be another piece of safety equipment you have to use. Now, that's another point I wrote down in my notes before we did this episode. So, could that also be a factor in terms of safety? That because the technology has moved forward, so cars are a lot faster, but in theory, they are also made a lot safer. So the seats are a lot better regulated. So in theory, they're a lot safer. With the harnesses, the rules have changed. You've got harness device, helmet. Now a lot of cars have got these big wraparound nets, so you almost feel cocooned in the car. So I'll put it to Mick and Pete. So the cars being safer, does that have an aspect on it?
I think it does.
Yeah,
if you do something like, say, if you pull out a car like, let's say something that crosses generation, like Lotus Cortina, how would you build it, say, 30 years ago, 1991, compared to now?
We'd probably understand the seats in it.
You can't compare, can you? You know,
no, it's a completely different world, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it
just depends on the cars. I mean, you think of something like F1000 and stuff like that. You have to have a completely different head on you.
Yeah.
A lot of cars these days, they've got full welding cages. They don't have bolting cages. They're a structural part of the chassis of the car, and you've only got to jack them up. They're that bloody, well built these days, and there's a lot of people out there doing a great job of building some fantastic cars and safe cars. And that was highlighted to me the weekend at Motorsport Days Live. I was looking at one particular car, and I just thought to myself, that is a safe car to be in. If you were going to have an accident, that's the one you'd want to be in. And no one wants to have an accident, but when it does happen, I think the safety's come on so much. Like you said earlier, there's hands device, there's the Simpson hybrid, there's wraparound seats. Harnesses are better. You do automatically feel safer in a car than you used to. I mean, I go back to the early 80s when I started, and on circuit racing, and the diameter of the roll cages was you could run anything. We used to run aluminium cages, and there were like bloody exhaust pipes on them. And if you had a bump, mate, you had a bump and you knew about it, and if you got out of it, you were lucky. You look now and you look at some of the horrific crashes that happen. You look at GTs. I mean, you look at that GT event that was at Spa this year. It was horrendous, and everybody got out and learned around. I think, well, what happened there then? The cars are safe today, so in comparison, and I do think it gives people that full sense of security. I do.
That's I was about to say that. Flipping it on its head, then does that give people that godlike feeling that I can't be hurt in this, neither can anybody else, because we're all in super safe machinery.
Yeah.
I didn't think.
I mean, there was an incident at Donington earlier on this month, and one of the guys there had an off, came across the track off the grass and got collected, and it really did knock him out. He was taken to hospital. He was totally didn't know who he was, where he was, or what the hell was happening, and that's in a very good, strong, well-built car. And it really did hurt him. And I think people do get to feel as though they're invincible because they'll have a little knock or they'll have an off and they get out the car and they're fine. And they do think they're invincible. And it that worries me as well, because we're not. None of us are. I mean, You look at that terrible situation at Snet with the C1, and you can't say it was a massive high-speed accident, can you? And because it wasn't. But we're vulnerable. We're still vulnerable, and we've got.
Oh yeah.
You're sat in there in a nice roll cage and everything, but everything in our body still moves around at a different rate to everything else in the car, and people seem to forget that. It's all your organs are still moving around when everything stops.
Yeah.
I will just say, just as a fairness there, because I've had to take a few comments down tonight. But as in case of a few people have mentioned what's happened at Snetterton Outlet Brands this year, we do need to just put it out there that there is still investigations ongoing. So we're not talking about it pure and simple.
Right.
Not getting into the details. So the FIA are pretty hot on that. So protect everyone involved.
There's no need, is there? There's no need to be throwing stuff like that around.
No,
That's not what tonight's discussion is about. It's
an overall discussion about driving standards as a whole in club racing.
Yeah, of course it is.
We've been. It's brought up a lot of conversation. A lot of people are very passionate about it. I mean, let's look at some positive, guys. There are some series where people have commented about the impeccable standards.
Yeah.
So, and we do need to celebrate that more.
Throw some out there. Name some names of brilliant championships. I mean,
the C1s are another point. I know you guys, we've talked them up a lot recently, but we're
going to be giving them a go on Saturday.
Yeah, the guys are going to be giving them a go on Saturday. So, I mean, Robin has come straight on and said they've been sent footage afterwards of an incident that's occurred on track, and for the next event, the car involved that has committed that offence is not racing.
Good.
Again, brilliant. Mike Seaborn, I remember.
Control.
Yeah. I mean, Mike Seaborn, who raced and did very well in the Jaguars this year, he said as well, no contact all year, absolutely fantastic. His first year of racing. So there are loads of series out there.
That surprises me because the Jag is like the size of a country. Let's be honest.
True, but to be honest, mate, with the Jags as well. When you're racing with a group of villains, the racing's kind of a sideline. The racing's kind of a sideline. You're kind of too busy carrying out the bank jobs and.
You think about it though, as well, the stolen painting in the back of the car.
You don't want to damage.
They're driving exactly, so they're driving very carefully and very gentlemanlike.
Yeah.
So no wonder they've had a good race this year.
Yeah. To the point of you two racing on Saturday, Nick Goff, Robin, and Tom at the C1 Club are doing their absolute best to try. They really are. They just need to stop inviting Club Racing UK founders. They look well dodgy.
I'll tell you something. They are a gorgeous bunch of guys, actually. After meeting them Saturday, I can't wait for this Saturday. It's going to be brilliant.
There we go. Right.
Good fun.
Come on, guys. Let's get the positive comments in there. So you have been racing this year, and you've had some good times. You've had some good driving standards. We want to hear about it as well. So, Carol's Cole, personally, not just because I race in the championship myself, but F1000 Swallow Homes Championship has to be one of the most respectful grids I've seen or raced in. Such a close and friendly championship to be in. Ego gets to everyone. We are racing drivers.
We are. Do you know what, actually, just quickly on that comment of saying about, a close and friendly paddock and stuff like that. How many people quickly jump on board and help someone else with their car to get them out on the grid?
Yeah.
If someone's got a problem with their car, everyone in the paddock will try. I say everyone. 98% of the paddock will try and get a fellow competitor out, won't they?
Yeah. Robin Welch, just with the positivity comments, guys, I love Robin Welch has come on. He loved racing with Project 8 Racing. Why? The pits are a huge family. You race better, harder, closer, with respect, with friends. Rick Walker raced as a guest in the Track Attack Race Club this year at Alton and all behaved brilliantly. Side by side, lap after lap, not even a touch. Neil Ashcroft, group of villains, quality. Well, let's be honest, Jags. When do you see it, right? Apart from the Jag race series, which is really fun to watch, where do you see a Jaguar being used on the telly? It's normally a villain, isn't it?
Outside a bank.
Outside a bank, Phil Mitchell.
The guy with the dodgy stockings over his head.
Guy with the dodgy stockings over his head.
That might have nothing to do with Jags, though.
Well,
maybe not from where you're from, Mick.
What are you trying to say?
Sam makes a good point. Okay, so he's coming back to some of the previous comments we talked about. I think this is about the safety of the car. If anyone has the mentality to risk it all because they know their car is safe, they shouldn't be in the seat in the first place. They clearly have a screw loose. That's a good point.
It's a good point, but it happens.
Yeah.
I'm in this indestructible car. I'll just push this person out the way. I'll just move out of my way. Blah, blah, blah. It happens.
Yeah. Chris Pearson, the Formula Fords at Castle Combe have super close, no contact racing at pretty much every event. And again, Formula Ford Festival was some of the best racing I've ever seen.
And I think you look at any open wheel series, and they all seem to give each other that much more space and respect out there because of the way that the cars are. You start rubbing wheels with other open wheel cars, it's going to come off. Harsh. And I think that is true. Open wheel racers do generally race cleaner than tin tops do.
Yeah. Jonathan Berry, Audi Club Racer, comes back via YouTube. The people that I've met and spoken to across Time Attack, Civic Cup, and Road Sports have been really friendly, helpful, and overall a good bunch. Just a few let the side down as well. And again, Nick, Steph, you made the case. We all made the case at the start of the show. It is a minority.
When we're talking about driving standards, we are talking about the minority, and just trying to see if there's some sort of way to better police it, or
the thing is, at the end of the day,
improve and learn.
Unfortunately, as human beings, the negative will always outweigh the positive. You could have 10 positive things happen at a race weekend, but you'll have one bad thing and everyone will fucking focus on the bad thing. It's just human nature.
Yeah.
So by no stretch of imagination are we saying that racing is terrible. Oh, the drivers. I mean, Motorsport UK have obviously sent out this survey that we're talking about because they've obviously had XYZ complaints about it. But I guarantee they've obviously deemed an issue, but how many people have written into Motorsport UK and said, I've had the best year's racing ever. I've had fantastic racing.
Oh, yeah.
And here's another one, and this is one I always live by. How often do you leave a positive review at a restaurant?
I do if I go anywhere. I will say, thank you.
I mean, honestly,
I'll
go to a restaurant and I'll have good food. I'll just be done with it. But if I find something dodgy in my bowl, I'll be straight on Google saying this place was shit because I found a finger in there.
I don't just comment on food. I comment on the way you're treated as well. And I think, that's and again, work that round into our sport. The clubs, the way the clubs treat their drivers is very, very good across the board. I think we are so lucky as a nation to have the backing that we have from our clubs.
Oh, we have some of the best racing in the world, not just
and it's so easy to overlook that. We talk about driving standard. We're not talking about the every single racing driver out there. It is, as you said, the minority. But if the clubs had a little bit more to do with the control of that, it would phase out a lot easier. I believe. 100%. But
Vince liked Nick's comment about finding a finger in his food. Well, I think the problem there, Nick, is eat with a fork, not with your hands. Ross Craig. Now, this is a man that would know about his cages. Seeing the rock solid engineer that he is. Cage regulations are getting stricter and stricter. It's saving lives, but they're absolutely rock solid now. There's now not much difference between a pucker saloon cage and a British touring car strength-wise.
It's good. Industry standard, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
You look at historic cars today compared to the ones that have been recreations. You look at what JRT build or what Owens build, or they're nothing like they were in period. They're so much better, so much safer, so much nicer. Better materials. But it doesn't alter the person behind the wheel. We still have to deal with that, don't we?
Yeah. But let's be honest, look at some of those period cars. When you see like the old Minis, for instance, racing around at Goodwood, back in period, you would have literally had them in a seatbelt in a cloth seat.
But
maybe with a helmet on if you were lucky.
Yeah, but they weren't going anywhere near as quick, though, were they? They weren't going anywhere near as quick then.
Yeah, Mick made that point as well. A decent Lotus Cortina, Mick. and it would have been cloth seat. I mean, you've seen the old footage, haven't you, of
Oh,
days
yeah.
gone by when it was the British Saloon Car Championship and the big fat and small minis, and they had an accident, and the roll cage was absolutely bugger all, and it was standard seats.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then that is why, like the likes of Ross coming along and saying that about his cages, the sport has progressed. Safety has progressed, you know.
See,
unfortunately, things have gone wrong. Then things get put in place to stop that going wrong again. That is just progression.
See, back in the day, motorsport was dangerous and sex was safe. It's totally the opposite these days.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, definitely. I totally agree with that.
Jonathan Bevan, the old man's A40 had gas barrel roll cage and a parachute harness.
Love it.
Yeah.
Probably still has.
Right, Aldi Club Racer, Jonathan Berry's come back on. There were some comments from MSD about cages and poor workmanship. They may be getting stricter, but workmanship in some cases hasn't got better. I think at the end of the day, you've just got to make sure that you put your money in the right places.
Yep. Yeah. And also go to reputable companies that you know will build you good cars.
Yeah. I mean, you know, when I built my car, I made sure that I spent a little bit extra to get the welding cage with the crossbars, 6-point clubman. I did my research about who was fitting it, and I've always raced with a seat that's got the wraparound bit around the head and a little bit more comfort to hold me in. Because let's be honest, I'm a fat bastard, and there's a lot of me that needs to be held in. So, yeah, Sam Pierce is a good point. We've moved from driving standards to safety. Okay.
Yeah, he's got a fair point.
We've got a Facebook user here. Okay. I was very blunt in my MSA survey. It's about harsh penalties. Yes, they may lose 4% of the grid, so the minority, but more of the grid will stay, and they will likely attract more to the series if it has. I think he's meant to put a good reputation there, not a god reputation. We're not a religious series. That's high on our list this year as we look for a new series. Well, obviously, there's no name tied to that comment, but do come back. So you're looking for a new series. Is that because of driving standards, or are you just looking for a new change? That's just, come back to us. Ross.
I mean, there was some pre-comments, wasn't there, before the show, actually. Obviously, we knew this show was going to be big because there was people commenting before the show had even started. And there was a guy, I can't remember where the comment was now, but they said, obviously, they're looking for a new championship because the one they're currently in, the standards of driving were not acceptable.
Yeah.
So, you know, it is happening.
Yeah.
We shouldn't really be getting to that stage, really, should it?
No.
It's now leaving because of that.
No, but then, unfortunately, that can be a reason why a championship will eventually collapse.
But this is what we were saying though earlier, wasn't it? The cream will rise to the top. If you know the BRSEC MX5 Championship, for instance, racing with them, you're going to go door to door, no issues, 30 cars, la 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 la. You're going to go there, aren't you? You're not going to go see Billy over here who's running 5 cars because it's 250 quid. But don't worry. You might not survive it. Your car might be going home on the back of a trolley, something silly like that. Yeah. You just won't go there.
Exactly.
No.
Yeah, sound point, Nick. Okay, guys. So, it was Patrick Seal. Not looking for a new series due to standards. Oh. Patrick Seal, Mr. Red Seal Racing, not looking for a new series due to standards. Despite this year, we're after a new series due to change in format. So I think they're looking to carry on with the 45-minute driver stuff. Right. So I'll ask quick before we go back to the main question. So who's actually filled in the survey? I know I have. Nick?
No.
Steph, you have.
Yeah.
Okay. What was your overall view on the survey?
That's a long time ago now, Rob.
No. Is it like what did you put in?
Well, pretty much what we've been talking about tonight. I mean, some of the questions where they said again about more education and things like that. I put down I think it's more of a fact you need, like we said, you need penalties in a way, not money. You need to penalise them as the club as such. in race entries and stuff like that. I said it doesn't help with the way the BTC feature it all. But again, as we know, it'd be an interesting thing to do, wouldn't it? If you could change the BTCC and change it so there was zero contact and just good, clean, hard racing, what would the viewing figures be? Would they be the same?
No, they wouldn't.
No, everyone watches it because they want to see them crash. So then they're not going to sort that out because that's what's bringing in the money.
Yeah.
Which is then everyone gets to watch. And then, as I say, this is a minority. The minority see that and influenced by that and think that's an acceptable thing to do.
But for instance, I don't watch the BTCC to watch people crash. I want to see 10, 15 cars, nose to tail.
Yeah. But you're
best driver winning the race.
Okay. You're a racer. How much? The percentage of the audience of British touring cars? How many are racers? It would be so low. I believe a lot of people will be enthusiasts of motorsport.
Yeah.
And then want to watch the action.
So
if you watch the Formula One and the end of the race, nothing happened, but it was a good race. Hamilton stayed at P1 the whole way through. You get to the end of it, that's boring. And a load of stuff happens, and a load of people crash, and stuff happens. And it was an exciting race.
Can have an entertaining race without a crash. If you've got
definitely as a racer, you can. But
Formula One, right? We'll use Formula One as it's the absolute pinnacle, right? Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton going at it this year. If they're constantly overtaking and they're constantly no contact, but they're just nose to tail, overtake, you'll watch it and you'll be entertained by it.
But that's
when it is just following this person over here. Oh, I've qualified first. I'm going to finish first. That's when it's boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as I said, the figures of the actual audience would be low that would be interested in that. They're waiting for something to happen.
I don't agree. I think if the racing is good, you'll still have that fan base.
I completely agree with you. You'll have the racers, but you won't have the full audience because people are waiting for that to happen.
Okay. Tell you what.
Okay.
So you both have your separate views on that. So Mick, from again, I'll go for you with the journalistic, no bullshit point of view. What's your thoughts on what they've said
on the BTCC? You know what? I think Steph's right. There is a NASCAR effect there. People want the big one. But I think that the last couple of years, the racing's been a lot more cleaner than what people think. There's been one or two incidents that people focus on, and that makes the year. But in fact, there's been some bloody boring races, the kind that Nick was saying about, where there's nothing at the front.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, to be honest, the BTCC, talking about viewing figures, I mean, it's only about 300,000, around about the peak that they get when the touring cars are on. I don't think you're going to lose that many people if there's no crashes and whatnot, I think but it's the same. I mean, if you stand trackside and you hear the way that it's one of the few places in Britain away from F1 where you can regularly see and measure the appreciation of the fans at the circuit when somebody gets past. Yeah, a bit rubbing in the BTCC, that's supposed to be expected. But whether it's clean or not, you hear a good roar, I don't think there's as much. I think its reputation's getting above what the reality of it is.
Yeah. One final thought here from Matt, because I'm going to close this up with the big question and just ask your thoughts. So I'll go with the last comment here. So what are the people's thoughts about policing the pre-event condition of cars? At club level, I'm sure people would quickly get bored of contact if they were spending cash repairing bodywork each week. Last time I had contact, the other car had evidence of crash damage on pretty much every other panel other than the roof. With every panel damaged, there was little incentive not to take risks. I get that to a point, only because, and again, this is a bit of an embarrassment for me, but we all know I've had a few troubles this year. But I mean, Nick, so there was a little tap from Silverstone when Nick was in the car, and it was just a bit of a squeeze together, a little bit of a tap, but that left a mark on the car. I had the issue at Alton Park where my wheel sheared off. That did quite a bit of damage that I managed to just botch together. I mean, the problem is for stuff like that, the car turned up. in a reasonable nick at the next, but there was evidence on there that it had a bit of bumping before. But that wasn't me harping into another car.
I don't think that's the issue. I think with the little bumps of a season on a real club racer that hasn't got the budget to repair every panel after every single little thing's not the issue. I think it's more the cars, we've seen it, that rock up, that have had serious contact and are beaten up, and they've made them mechanically safe to go and race, but they look like crap. They're not going to worry about them panels for that race.
No.
So
we have seen that.
You know, it's a fine line.
Yeah, having no scrutiny doesn't help.
Yeah, having no scrutiny hasn't helped. But it says in the regs you need to show up in, I believe, nearly every series. You need to show up in a presentable condition.
There we go. So Sam agrees with you, Steph. So it's written in a lot of regs for cars to be presentable. It looks good for the series, and it also helps identify damage from an instant which isn't old existing damage.
Does it get enforced though? Because I go back to last year. I'll not mention the series. It was a series up at Croft where there was two brand new cars at the front in a team, and they took each other out. And it was a Ford. So I'll just say that. But the guy mid grid had, as you say, dents in every panel. Didn't even have any windows in the car. I mean, if you're going to, should he not have been slumped to one side?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's and Pete, you made superb point there. Hasn't helped with self-scrutineering because it's given people more emphasis to go. Oh, just sneak it in, just sign the self-declaration form, but. It should be at a point, okay, you're not doing the self-scrutineering, but there has been scrutinies at the circuit. So why aren't they seeing this and going, right, I've seen your car out on track looking like an absolute bag of if it's got every panel's beaten up and it's got no windows, should it be a case of you pull that car from the meeting and go, no, I'm not having that?
Well, if he's had an incident and took back to Parc Ferme and then to the scrutineering bay and had its sticker taken off, then the scrutineer should... Even though it was self-declaration, there were scrutineers there to make sure that the car was fit for purpose to go back out there, and it's obviously down to them. And again, the club, I keep going back onto trying to pass it on to the club. I'm not deliberately trying to give the club any more work to do, but it's under their banner, isn't it? It's under their umbrella, and again, they're doing a bloody great job. But I think areas like that might help their situation more, and in the long term it might be a little bit of grief for the first 6 months, but I think it would make their life a lot easier in the long term. I really do, and get someone in to do that job for them, as a volunteer. I'm sure there's a lot of guys there that have been experienced racers that aren't racing anymore. I know there's so many that drive safety cars, etc. For but so they can still have an involvement. Why can't we involve and keep them within the family and get them to, have maybe 2 or 3 as driver representation people on the day at each event, and have someone with the, with experience there that has a knowledge of it as a more rounded person, really, I should say.
Okay.
That's just my thoughts.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask the main question that we asked at the start of this topic this evening. So my question to the 5 of you, I'm going to to the 4 of you, I'm going to come across all of us. So
do that.
Have driving. Oh, fuck's sake, Nicholas!
Nearly made it, mate. You nearly made it.
Jesus Christ! It's 10 to 10, and Nick's now ruined it.
I've been good. I've been pretty good this year.
You've been very good.
The watershed.
It is past the watershed. We can say things like
it's not. Now. It's not when people can just listen to it whenever they want.
Yeah, very true. Okay, guys. So I'm going to start with Mick. Have driving standards dropped?
No, I don't think they've dropped. I don't think they've went up. I just think they are what they are.
Pete Edwards, have driving standards dropped?
I don't think they've got any better, but I do think they've been highlighted more with, as we've all said, the social media points. A lot of it was swept under the carpet because nobody knew about it. And I also think there's less now single-seater championships than there ever used to be. And there's a lot more saloons out there, a lot more one-make saloons and sports cars. And I think that has brought it in that it's been brought to the head a lot more, because I remember, years ago, I'm showing my age now, everywhere you went there was at least 4 lots of bloody Formula Fords there, in the day, and it was Formula Ford was the racing to be in. You don't get that now. It's all saloon cars, all sports cars. When I say sports cars, I'm talking about your Mazdas, etc. And I do think that there's a lot more facility to run closer without any major damage than there was years ago, and I think people just have took advantage of that. But I also think that social media publicise it as well. So, is there any more? Yeah, I think there probably is a little bit, more with poor driving standards. There's more rules and regs now. We've got track limits, haven't we, for one thing, which we didn't have before.
Jesus! Don't start with track limits. We'll be here for another 2 hours.
That's a whole nother episode.
Yeah, well, it needs to be spoke about, and so I think yes, they are worse than they used to be, but I think we haven't got the cars out there that were more at risk of having incidents than we have now. So I think it gives people that little bit more facility to put their elbows out, shall we say.
Yeah. Steph, have driving standards dropped?
In my view, yes. But again, as we pointed nearly everything out tonight, it's exposed so much more by social media these days, so we can pick up on it more. And pretty much what everything else that Pete just said. So, in my personal experience, yes. I haven't really much to say. I think yes, marginally. I think it's got worse. But
okay. All right. Okay, just hold your thought there, Steph. Nick, I'll ask you the question then. Have driving standards dropped?
Yes, they have.
Okay, right.
My reason for saying this is I think yes, social media is exposing it more, but I also think motorsport is becoming more accessible for people. It is an elitist sport, but I still think more people are getting involved with motorsport. I'd be interested to see how many more license holders there are. So you have more new people in the sport. So yeah, I just think
the license numbers are dropping, but it depends in what discipline.
No way.
What's your thought, Robert?
I'll be honest,
Robert. What's your thought, Robert?
I think social media is the number one factor in this, in the fact that, as you guys have said, everything that you watch now is there. Everything is there. So if a driver has an incident and gets pissed off and puts the video up on YouTube and go, look at this clown, or a series has a live stream and unfortunately something happens and someone goes click and screen grabs it and then puts it out there to the world. So I think it's a yes and no. It's one of those. I know. I think
sitting on the fence.
I am sitting on the fence a bit, but I do think something needs to be done about driving standards, which I do have my own thoughts on. But I will ask all of you, if you do think to solve the various driving standard issue at the moment, what can be done about it as a final question this evening?
License grading. Start off as a novice, and you can only do up to a certain brake per ton of car.
Yeah.
Start off in something like the KAs, the C1s, 2CVs, whatever. Yeah. Start off in the lower classes. Only then, once you've done your 6 because the thing is, 6 signatures doesn't necessarily mean you can pilot a car. Only then, once you've proved 10 signatures, can you move up to something slightly more faster, 2-litre saloon cars, Formula Ford, etc., like that.
There is that rule in place, Nick.
Yeah,
it's on a national B. Well, it was on a national B. 350 per ton.
Now, Nick, someone's again. Sam Pearce watches the show a lot. He's just made a very good point.
He does.
License grading enters a KA 24-hour race.
Exactly. Well,
And I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I'll be honest.
That's a fair point.
To go with that, my first ever race was the 2CV 24 hours at Snetterton in 2010.
Yeah.
That was my first ever race.
To be fair, actually, someone pointed this out to me the other day. When someone does their first ever race, I think it was Robin of the C1 Racing Club, do a 24-hour C1 race, and the first stint that this guy had ever done for his first ever race was 3 o'clock in the morning round Silverstone in the pitch black. So
yeah.
I kind of agree with Sam there. Stuff like an elitist 24-hour race like that, maybe you shouldn't do it until you've done your 6.
And to your point, Nick,
look at the clubs.
Yeah, I get that. Out of club racer, Jonathan Berry, that wouldn't last so, Nick, because I can't afford to build 2 or 3 cars to then progress up to what I'm driving now. So to that, I mean, my thought, you asked me on my thoughts, Pete. I think it should be a case. The MSA have got the license points system in place now. There needs to be a bit more consistency, and I think the clerks of the course maybe need a bit more training. But I think it should get to a point, if you accrue a certain amount of points on your race license, it doesn't have to get to the maximum 12. Maybe if you get to 6, you then have to go and take your advanced ARDs or go and get tuition, and you have to get it signed off by an ARD school. Go and get some extra tuition. So as an extra punishment, right, you've got 6 points. And it could have happened to me lads, because remember what happened in the Focus, first race back, Full Power Live last year? I went and got 2 points.
Yeah, we did.
I was a dickhead.
Yeah, we did.
I was
overtaken before the start-finish line.
Yeah. And to be fair, I held my hands up to that. I did get held up, and I did ask the question. He should be getting exactly the same as me, because he didn't, the field are nearly up at Surtees while we're at top of Druids on the green flag. But anyway, but I think something like that. So if you get to 6 points, you have to then either get 2 hours tuition or do your advanced ARDs, maybe. Thoughts?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, quite a good idea.
Yeah, but you could also enforce that at club level. If the club, have picked up a few things going on they're not happy with before they ban you or whatever, go, you can come back, but you need to go and do a bit more tuition or whatever, and then come back and see us, and then we'll go back out.
You need to go spend a day with the motorsport school.
What you have to remember is, though, and this is quite obvious from doing what we do. If people are sat with you, they're on their best behaviour when they're sat with you. 100%. They're on their best behaviour to pass an ARDS course, and this is why footage is so important, because it's real life, isn't it?
Yeah.
If they drive like a bloody idiot on an ARDS course or an advanced ARDS course, they shouldn't be racing. They haven't got the sense to be racing. They're a danger.
In fact, we can back that up with how many people still drive the way they were taught on their driving test.
Yeah, on an ARDS course to do. And, if they're not fit, our rule is, would I be happy sat next to that person on the grid? It's yes or no, isn't it? It's not difficult. And if that person isn't up to scratch, sorry, you haven't passed. If that person can drive, safely and can keep control of the vehicle at a brisk pace, we still have to remember they are novices. They're not experts coming in. They haven't been racing for years. Some have done track days, some haven't. And I think some people come in still thinking they're on track day rules, and that can cause more trouble. And, that's something we concentrate on, that, they see a blue flag and all of a sudden they're trying to dive out the way, when that causes more problems. Hold your racing line, be predictable. And I think it starts with ourselves, the club, the schools, of educating the students correctly in the first place. We have a duty of care to that student and to every other racer, and it should be right. And I'm passionate about that. And then we hand them over to the real world, don't we? Which is run by the clubs. And I think then the clubs have to pick up the baton of that. And once it gets to the stage where the clubs can't have that influence over that particular person, then they go to Motorsport UK. And I think it could work that way very, very well. And everybody, the other club members would be happy about it, I'm sure, because it's protecting them. You're always going to get a negativity, and that's going to be from the ones that are in the firing line. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen if they go sent to the clerk of the course. Bloody clerk of the course, they don't know what they're talking about. You're going to get it. Whether the clerk's decision was correct or incorrect, you'd hope it would be correct. We live in the real world. It isn't always. I think we all have a duty to make sure that we educate the people correctly from the minute they put a helmet on to the minute they take the helmet off. And it can be quite daunting out there. And it doesn't help when clerks of the course send safety cars out in the wrong place. And then it causes lots and lots of problems, and it can ruin that race totally because the clerk hasn't looked and said, right, activate safety car now, or wait at the bottom of the pit lane and we'll tell you. The safety cars get sent out in front of bloody anywhere, and it's they managed to do it in BTCC, so why can't they do it anywhere else? I see it every event that I go to, it happens, and it really winds me up a treat because it's not difficult. They know where the leader is. They're all being shown safety car boards all the way around. There's yellow lights flashing and bloody flags waved. Everybody's slowing down. Just pull out in front of the leader. Don't just pull out willy-nilly and cause an accident, because that really happened.
Panic.
Yeah.
Just a panic, isn't it? Scramble, scramble. Ah!
Yeah, and we talk about driving standards. Let's talk about official standards then, because that can affect the driving standards, can't it? Again, we're all that one big family that should be looking after each other and having each other's back, and we need to be more like that, really. I believe. But...
Okay.
Next.
Anything else to add, guys? Because I think this has been our biggest show.
Yeah, of course.
Just blast through the comments quickly, Rob. There's quite a few.
Yeah, yeah, no worries. There is quite a few.
Are we not going to ask the other two on the panel what they think would be?
We'll come back.
We'll come back. Let's get these comments out of the way. The more feasible idea from Audi Club Racing, but I had half a lap before I passed my ARDS test. You should get the remainder of the day with an instructor to get a bit of race car. To be fair, when I did my ARDS test at Silverstone 2009. I had an hour's tuition afterwards that was all included with that, and I found it really helpful.
Yep.
Patrick Seal driving like they were taught. I remember Pete telling me off for threading the steering wheel on my test. Reset the ARDS test for a consistent display of poor driving standards, points build up, etc. Yeah, great. Similar to a road license penalty system, because I know, if it gets to 12 points on your road license, you have to take your test again if you get banned. Some cases.
Yeah.
Tom Gadd, the problem is the MS UK is stuck in a situation where license numbers are dropping. So when people take their license test, they feel like they have to pass them so they can collect some numbers. When I did my license test, I sat in a room with 7 people who'd never drove a car around a circuit before, yet they were there to take their race license test.
We've all got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
I guess Robin Welch, safety car's job is to neutralise the race. Doesn't matter when, just had to get out. Maybe easier with the endurance side. I guess Robin playing devil's advocate. Adam Chamberlain, great show, dude. Thank you, guys. We do our best on the show. Langdon Motorsport. I got the full day after passing ARDS. Big topic. Shame I'm late to the party. Well, as I will say here before we ask the final two on the panel for their quotes on what we can do to better driving standards. If you listen to this show back, obviously it will be available on the Club Racing UK page, the Paddock page, and of course on the Club Racing UK YouTube channel. Alternatively, if you are an audio listener, this will also be available on the likes of Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, and alike afterwards to listen to at your leisure, along with the other great episodes of the Club Racing UK.
Yeah, they're all there.
They are all there. So, guys, the last 2 thoughts on what we could do to sort out driver standards, and then that'll be the end of the show.
Who's it to?
We're starting with. Who's left?
Mick, go for it.
Mick.
If they've thrown the survey out from Motorsport UK, I think the whole thing has to come from the top. They have to get more involved. Just got to get more involved. Because the two police is the police.
Yeah. And you don't really see them on a race weekend, do you?
Well, to be fair, it was mentioned earlier, wasn't it, about having clubs overseeing their own thing. But surely we all pay a pretty hefty license fee. Mm-hmm. Having a Motorsport UK representative at every race weekend surely isn't unfeasible.
If they can
Have
afford
them,
to
I mean,
run
you've
Formula
got your
4, they can
licensed
afford to do
officials,
that.
Nick. You've got your licensed officials that are there representing the Motorsport UK, aren't they?
Yeah, but should they be getting more involved with what's happening on track, and
Yeah,
less of what
but
the club are doing?
The problem is, Nick, they've got other things to spend their money on, like relocating to Bicester Heritage because of the office in Slough wasn't good enough. Anyway, just thought I'd put that out there.
I'll just say, going back to the C1s, I don't know if it's the same now, but in years past, you would see somebody walking around the trackside or in spectator areas, the high-vis vest on, driving standards on the back. Does any other club do that? Should they all be doing that? If you're paying your money to go and race, should there be somebody having a look actually what's going out on track in places all the
That's
way
what I
around?
mean. Someone overlooking the action, what's going on out there, that's impartial to the club.
Yeah.
Well, there we go, guys. So quite a packed show tonight.
Did we get Steph's point?
Go on, Steph's point.
I added my point earlier.
All right, fine. I wasn't listening to you. Then.
No, clearly not. What I will say though, quickly before we end the show, is if you're new to the show, please make sure you hit the follow button. If you're on YouTube, please make sure you subscribe. It's a tiny little thing for you guys, but it's absolutely massive for us to help us
it is.
grow and bring more stuff to you guys. So even hitting that like button, just smash.
Tell your friends, tell your nan, tell everybody. As mentioned, we've fast become the place, the platform where you guys can have your say, and
well,
the more people you tell, the more people get involved.
There we go. Matt Clary, I can see a part 2 coming. Well,
never sequel.
Buy it.
Yes.
Sequel.
That's what we're here for.
Bit of plugging at the end.
Yes. Get it closer to the camera.
It's an old one. Motor Racing UK.
Yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
There we go. Best magazine on the market.
The comments.
Mick, can you subscribe to that, Mick?
Yes,
can you subscribe to that? Okay. Cool.
Aye.
Right, no worries, guys. So from our guest, Pete at the Motorsport School and Mick from Motor Racing UK, keep an eye out for future editions of the magazine and of the digital e-print. Obviously, they will be advertised on the Club Racing UK pages as usual. And the Motorsport School have got a fantastic offer for Club Racing UK members, which Steph's talked about earlier in the podcast. Like I said, the audio version of this show will be going out soon. And we will see you in 2 weeks for another episode of the Club Racing UK podcast. It's bye for now.
It won't be
me.
It won't be 2 hours and 9 minutes long, though, will it?
No, it won't.
Well, we'll see.
Thanks for what you're doing, guys. Though it's important what you're doing. You know, you're doing a great job, and thank you from all the track users. So, thank you.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you, guys. So, from your host Robert Lewis and from Club Racing UK's Nick Holmes and Stefan Marsh, it's good night from us. Good night.
Good night, everyone.